And I said to him, I think I know what's going on with you, and I think I found the solution.
Oh my God.
And he was sitting in the back seat of the car, and he was very quiet. And I was saying, this is why you've been in the bowl chair since nursery. This is why you can't sleep at night, why you're totally disorganized in the morning, why I'm always shouting at you. And I was rabbiting on why you can't eat the same food as everybody else, etc., etc. And I looked in the rear view mirror, and there were big tears rolling down this 12-year-old's face. And he said to me, Mummy, does this mean I don't have to feel like this for the rest of my life?
Oh, Janie.
And I says, well, John, do you know what? That's what they're telling me. It's not medication. It's not injections. So let's give it a go. It's active play. It's balance. It's coordination exercises. Let's give it a go and see where we are.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show. But first, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. And also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health. And I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show.
Before we start today's video, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.
Welcome everybody to the Empowering Family Health Podcast. I am your host, Joanne Callahan, and I am really excited for you to be here again for this exceptional show. We're going to be talking all about children, family, how we can improve, unlock the potential in your children, and also not even just your children, but you yourself, the parent, or if you're an athlete. We're going to talk all about performance levels. We have Suzanne from Performance Breakthrough. Suzanne, come in and say hello. You're very welcome.
Hi, and it's actually Susan, but anyway.
Susan, I did it again.
I knew you were going to do that, Joanne. Yes.
Susan, see, I need some of this focus. Susan. Okay, great. So Susan, I'm really excited now because like we were chatting just before I pressed record just briefly, and I took part in one of your workshops recently. John Donnelly from the YHA Youth Academy recommended me to go on your call and reach out to you. You know, he said, Johnny, you got to listen to this lady, like, you know, she's just incredible, and she's making an impact in families, you know, and I'm so glad I did, because what you have to offer, I don't know if many people are aware of how it all works, but we're going to get into all of this. But folks, this is going to be a powerful conversation, and what Susan, did I say that right, Susan?
Yeah, you did.
has to offer is just, it's so simple, but yes, so profound. So Susan, before we dive in, give us a background, why you love this work and what it is that you came across in your own life experience that has you do this work today.
Okay, well, this will resonate right away with a lot of families. So my youngest son was never out, my eldest son was never out of the headmaster's office throughout primary school. All low-level stuff, but he was always in bother. He'd no concentration, couldn't conform in a classroom, talking, all that sort of stuff, right? And whenever he went then to first year, we were called in by the May time of first year. We were called in by the head of year and told that if our son didn't pull his socks up within 2 weeks, he was losing his place in the top class.
Oh, that's a big deal. Yeah.
So what was happening was he was, after about 2 hours of me shouting, he was doing the homework. But then he didn't maybe have that subject. Say he did his maths homework. He maybe didn't have maths the next day. So he would start packing his bag. Well, sure, the homework book would have been flung, probably under the bed. He packed his bag. Maths wasn't on the next day. So therefore, the maths homework, he was supposed to bring the homework in to show that he'd done it. And this wasn't just him, this was the whole class. They were supposed to do the homework and bring it in to mark off that it had been done, whether they had that class or not. But John kept forgetting to bring the books in. So he'd done the homework, but it looked as if he hadn't, because as far as the teachers were concerned, it wasn't presented. So you get away with that once, twice maybe. 3 strikes and you're out. And the teacher by that stage was going, this kid's just not bothering, he's not doing the homework.
Your teacher he was been defiant type of thing.
Right, just not bothering.
Yeah.
Well, been lazy and just not, but because these kids are labeled lazy, bold, whatever, whatever, whatever. And so by the May time we were brought in, as I say, and we came out, me crying, and I basically said to my husband, look, there's something going on with him. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find out what it is. Because I'm not having him kicked out of the top class. Because once they get kicked out of the top class, it can be a very, very bad spiral downwards. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, I went and Googled low concentration, and I found an exercise program that was in vogue at the time. It since went into receivership, but we did basically, I went and signed him up for that program that day because I have that girl in my phone stored under Alison Godsend. I don't know what her second name is, but she was a godsend to me. Okay. And whenever she explained what they did and I explained what John was doing, it matched. And so I went, okay, let's just get this done. So I signed him up, and whenever I collected him from school that day, he got into the car thinking, I am dead, because his mum and dad had been called to school that day. And I said to him, I think I know what's going on with you, and I think I found the solution.
Oh my God.
And he was sitting in the back seat of the car, and he was very quiet. And I was saying, this is why you've been in the bowl chair since nursery. This is why you can't sleep at night, why you're totally disorganized in the morning, why I'm always shouting at you. And I was rabbiting on why you can't eat the same food as everybody else, etc., etc. And I looked in the rear view mirror, and there were big tears rolling down this 12-year-old's face. And he said to me, Mummy, does this mean I don't have to feel like this for the rest of my life?
Oh, Janie.
And I says, well, John, do you know what? That's what they're telling me. It's not medication. It's not injections. So let's give it a go. It's active play. It's balance. It's coordination exercises. Let's give it a go and see where we are. And he used to pulverize his younger brother every time the adverts came on. And we shouted at him and tried to protect the wee one. And within 6 weeks of starting doing these exercises, my eldest son came to me one day in the house and went, Mummy, why would I have hit Peter? And I went, you're asking me? And he went, no, but seriously, I love Peter. Why would I have hit him? Empathy had kicked in.
Wow.
Consequences had kicked in. Within 6 weeks, Joanne, of starting doing these exercises, I didn't know anybody else was doing them. I'm just one of those people that goes, do you know what? Actually, that makes sense. And it's a heck of a lot better than medication. So let's give it a go. And my goodness. So I then subsequently realized that my youngest child was dyslexic. I'd always thought, well, he's that bright, he'll eventually catch up. But it wasn't going to be. And I did the program with him as well. And that kid in P6 could not write a sentence, couldn't retain spellings, couldn't read. And he subsequently went on to be a surveyor in NIE, which is owned by ESB in the South. And he passed his HNC with a distinction. Handwritten, Joanne. Okay, so he would tell you himself he is no longer dyslexic, and a lot of other people that we've worked with would say the same, that they're no longer dyslexic. They can now read, take in what they're reading. They know their spellings just come to them automatically, and they can write what they have in their head down on paper. He's writing reports all of the time. And so you can imagine me being a talker. Once I saw what happened with my own two children, I could not shut up about it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it took 3 years then for me to find the original research that was done by Dr. Belguy in Seattle. And I went out and I trained with him. He's since passed away, but I went out and trained with him and his wife, and I brought it back to Northern Ireland.
So much in that, Susan. And tell us, what did you discover? Because this is deeper than the perceived, what we see or think or perceive. What is actually going on in their brains or in their body? What's actually going on?
Well, if you imagine an eye exercise that we do, okay, so I mean, you can try this at home with your child, okay, so I'm keeping my head still and I'm tracking something in space, okay. Now, a child who can't concentrate and across the way is very telling. A child that cannot concentrate will not track that smoothly. There'll be wee flicks, the eyes will flick, 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 flick. Or indeed, the pen will be moving along and they'll already be way ahead. Mm-hmm. That's a child who wants to be always on to the next thing. What's next? What's next? What's next? Or starts a task but can't finish it. They're always jumping ahead because the eyes are jumping ahead. So if you imagine, we talk about, if I said to you, God, Joanne, I can't focus today. I'm using a physical word of focus of what's happening in the physical to describe what's happening in the mental. So if I can't focus in the physical, I can't concentrate in the mental.
It feeds back into the brain.
It's body-mind connection. So if the eyes are jumping, that's why a child can't read. And if the eyes are jumping, it's sending back a mixed signal. The two eyes are working independently of each other and sending back a mixed signal to the brain to be processed. That's why whenever you say to your child, look at me when I'm speaking to you, by that stage we're shouting at them, let's face it. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. They will look at you, but they have no room to take in what you're saying because the eyes are taking in everything and trying to work out what you're on about. But they'll walk away, probably get out of swiping distance and go, what did you just ask me? They can't use the two systems of visual and hearing at the same time. So it's all chaos in there.
Oh, God.
Working smoothly. And you know, my eldest, the one that was always in trouble, whenever he was 15 and I was starting to work with other families then, I said to him, to bear in mind he did the program when he was 12. And I asked him, can you tell me what it was like when you were in the chaos? And he went, yeah. He says, I remember one day in P5 thinking, right, I'm really going to concentrate today. He says, I sat and, looked at the teacher and thought, right. He says,
so he really made an effort.
Really tried to make an effort. And he says, Mommy, everything had to swim. Everything she said had to swim through like Weetabix in my head. He says, I finally worked out the answer because I was smart enough to get the answer and put my hand up, only to realize that the teacher had moved on. It had already been answered. And he says, at that moment, I sat back and went, right, I really tried there and that still didn't work. Right, where's my pen till I get out of here? Of course, the teacher only sees the pen or the rubber flying.
Of course, yeah.
Knowing his luck, it probably hit Lucy off the head. John Steele's at it again, headmaster's office. You can see how, from a teacher's point of view, he's just randomly throwing a pen.
Oh, it's so misunderstood, Susan. And
so misunderstood. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Joanne, I'm not saying my child was an angel and he shouldn't have been put to the headmaster. It was probably the 5th time John was told off that day. And this could still be before lunch. I am under no illusions of where my child was. But John had no consequences. So if you can imagine, the eyes are not perceiving what is happening. Yeah. He couldn't think before he acted. Things are switched the wrong way round in these children. Yeah. But to put it simply, you get B's and D's around the wrong way for someone who's dyslexic, right? But consequences are around the wrong way for someone who is labelled ADHD or ADD. Because they can't think before they act. They can't think before they speak. So their class has been rude. They're not, they've just no filter.
Yeah, yeah. I always say, Susan, there's no such thing as a bold child.
Definitely not.
It's just something that's not working for them and their needs are not being met. And
Definitely.
I always say children's minds are being developed, as children, they're always getting developed and the brain doesn't totally mature until they're 20 years of age, right? Yeah. That's when they get all the responsibilities and what have you. And it's up to 20 years of age before it's fully matured, right? Which I found that very hard to believe, but that's the science. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, so their brain is still developing. So when they can't explain and get in touch with the emotions, because up to the age of 7, we say they're like very easily suggestible to, and they just believe everything that's been told to them, and they're like sponges, and nature kind of made children that way to speed them up, right? Yeah. And then after that, they start to ask questions and all that kind of thing, and self-identify, all that sort of thing. So so when a child is not getting their needs met, they act out. And it's just because they're frustrated, really, because they've no way of articulating the logic, as you say.
Exactly. And you know something, talk about needs being met. Parents are doing everything out there. I did everything that I possibly could to make life easier for John, for Peter, my youngest, for me and my husband. And it didn't work. Joanne,
what was that like in your family?
It's very frustrating. I mean, I used to shout for Ireland and think I was going to end up in A&E. I nearly broke my wrist on my steering wheel, and I'm a logical person, practical, logical mother. I nearly broke my wrist on my steering wheel, breaking it or banging it in P7. Go, when is this ever going to go in? Because we were late every morning, Joanne. The
So
other
that
wee
starts
one could
to-
get ready, no bother. He'd come in and do
Mm.
his homework. God love him, crying because he was dyslexic and I didn't know. But he was still opening the zip and getting the books out. But this other one was just testing all the time. He was never cheeky. He never answered me back. But he just couldn't. And even the day I was banging the steering wheel, he was sitting beside me. And he probably, dear love him, couldn't even remember what I was on about or
Yeah.
why I was so annoyed. Because once it happens, it's like delete. They can't think before it. They go afterwards and go, I shouldn't have done that. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like a dream that it's sort of go, what was it I shouldn't have done? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. And the terrible thing for them as well is that when they do get praise, you say to them as a parent, right, that teacher's seen something in you. Build on that now tomorrow. Because that's what we would do. We would build on it and really try and impress the teacher the next day. Of course, that's a delete as well. That doesn't work because the next day they go in and they're in the headmaster's office again. You're like, okay. So as parents, it's very important for parents out there to realize that you are doing everything that you can. You've tried taking things off them. You've tried, like Santa won't happen. Easter won't happen. We're definitely not going on holidays ever again. The only thing I didn't ever threaten them with not happening was their birthday.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But we bounced from every other feast day to holiday that wasn't going to happen. Just wasn't going to happen.
So it's like a life of consequences, and then they're always, they're on guard, or it's just like an unsafe. It doesn't feel like there's a safe environment there for them because they're always in trouble. They can't get it right. I'm not good enough, and
their only safety mechanism is that they don't take it in, and that's an opposite. If they could take it in, they'd be able to learn from their consequences, but they don't have consequences, and it's a delete. Because I said to my son when he was about 17, I took him to the park one day and I said, John, I need to apologize to you. I shouted a lot at you as a child. He said, Mum, seriously, you shouted that much? It really went in one ear and out the other.
Oh my God.
And I went, that's good, I think. And then we laughed, and then I said, no, seriously, but John, I must have said things that hurt you. And he says, Mummy, I can tell you now, I never went to bed thinking I wasn't loved. They're gentlemen, my two, absolute gentlemen. And this brings out that ability to be a gentleman in them, because they can see other people's needs. And that's what we need from our gentlemen. That's what we need from our men in this world. They need to be able to see empathy and to see other people as they are, and to be able to work with other people. And they're just gentlemen. They are. I mean, and I know they're my own two sons, but another mother phoned me and said, you realize you're creating gentlemen? And I went, yeah, I know, my own two are.
The ability to rest is the body's key to healing. Do you struggle with getting asleep at night time, or staying asleep during the night and waking up the next morning feeling absolutely exhausted? My book, How to Get a Good Night's Sleep, is easy to understand, it's solution-based, and it's packed with research to help you take back control of your night's sleep. My book is available on Amazon, and it's also available on howtogetagoodnightsleep.com. This book is also available in audio and ebook. So get your copy today and start having the best night's sleep that you've only ever dreamed of. Like they have, so many of us go around and we're living in this world, children and parents and adults, right? And we're living in this world where we're very narrow focused because there's so many distractions in our world, right? And there's so much stress and worry and concern, all that sort of thing going on in our world, right? Yeah. But when you're describing these children and your own, it's like they have a bigger picture. They can see the bigger picture. And
they absolutely do.
We all need to be able to see the bigger picture.
We do. Yeah. I mean, this other mother, I said, why, what's happened? And she says, well, the way he used to, the wee kid, he was only 10, and he used to cry every morning going into school, clinging to her for half an hour. He was freaking out going into school, right? So we got him past all of that. And he came into me one day and he said, I've gone into school every day at the right time for a week. And I was like, yay!
Oh my God.
That's right. And so then the mum had come in and says, you realise you're creating gentlemen? I says, yep. I said, what's happened? And she says, he got out of the car. This was last winter. He got out of the car with his wee sister, and the sister had forgotten her coat. She's only 7. She left the coat in the car. And she says, I watched them going across into the school, and the next thing I says, he didn't. And she says, he did. He took his coat off and put it around him.
You know what? That seems like something so small, but yeah, it's so massive.
Massive, because that kid 6 months earlier couldn't see anybody except himself, and the fear, abject fear of going into that school. And not only had that gone, all that anxiety, all that worry and fear and fright actually had gone. Not only that had gone, but the fact that he was now able to see his sister's needs and be kind to his sister.
Yeah, I really get, because we're wired to be kind to each other and help each other out. We need
but
to.
Many siblings are, Joanne.
Yeah,
actually are.
You
to
know,
see her need and put that coat on was. I mean, we both just stood and cried, and he cried too. Lovely moment, actually.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
There's so much where I can go from this. Yeah, I can hear the guilt in the parenting, you know, and the shame as well, which
Totally.
I talk a lot about these two. They're like the two lowest vibrations. They're the two lowest states that we can be in. It's like the whole doom and gloom. So I hear what you're saying, just to reiterate that as well. So I think self-care is very important for parents as well, and to know that they're doing their best. And I think when we have this understanding, all of us, like, you know, and that we have this understanding about the brain, and we don't have to be a neuroscientist, I don't think, or anything like that. But I think this general understanding and about this coordination, we're going to get into that now in just a minute. But
just on that understanding, I mean, this is what we hear from parents all of the time. They're not understood.
Yes.
They're not understood.
And when you're not seen and heard, I mean, that's
no. But they're not understood in that it's made out that it's their fault, that they're not parenting properly. I mean, I thought I hadn't read the book right for John. And you're talking about anxiety, about anger and guilt. Well, I mean, that's why I approached my own son at 17 and said, John, I have to apologize to you, because I did feel guilty for the way I had spoken to him. Wow. So I addressed it with him, and we did have the laugh about it, but at the same time, it was a serious conversation.
That was a big clearing for you, Susan, wasn't it?
It was a bit of clearing for me, you know, and I just wanted to voice it to him that he knew that I had, you know, I knew I had got it wrong, but I mean, at the end of it, he said to me, "But Mum, you got it right, because you went to the program, you believed in the program and went and did it." And I mean, I did it with him for a full year, and you know, I mean, they would still, they're 28 and 25 now, Joanne. And they would still at times would be sitting somewhere, maybe for a drink or whatever, and say, "Mum, seriously, where would we have been?
Oh yeah,
done that program, like, you know." John works for me now, and it's fabulous because he was that kid. He knows what it's like to sit in that classroom and be that kid. So we never put. I think what families get from us, and we would get notes all the time to say, "You haven't just helped whoever, you have helped us as a whole family," because all of a sudden, Dad, who is, now I'm generalizing, but usually Dad is very hard on the children and trying to instill the discipline, even though in the back of his mind he knows he could paste them up the wall 5 times a day if you were allowed, and it wouldn't make any difference. Mum can generally, you know, be blamed on thinking, the dad will sometimes think, "Oh, you just let them away with everything." But she inherently knows that, listen, I could paste him up the wall 5 times a day and it won't make any difference. It won't mean that he will have consequences, that he won't be anxious about school, that he'll just come in and sit down and do his homework. It doesn't mean that at all, because they haven't got the connection. And once families get to grips with the fact that their child isn't missing anything, but they need those connections tightened up and hardwired. And once they're hardwired, that's permanent change. They will never go back to not being able to concentrate.
Talk to us about these connections and how it works in your program.
Yeah, it's the neural pathway. So exercise changes how the brain processes information. So like that, if the eyes are juttering about all over the place, right? You're working with an eye exercise, 30 seconds it takes once a day, but you're on a balance board. So that is strengthening up the muscles around the eyes to hold the eyes in place so that they both work together as one piece of apparatus. So instead of sending back a mixed, confused signal as the messages, you know, as the muscles get tired all the time, as soon as they get tired, they send back a mixed signal. So it's chaos. So rather than that, it's one coherent signal going back to be processed. And that's why the child can think straight. We talk about being able to think straight, okay?
And it can
Without
reach a
all
logical
the
path.
other clutter coming in. Ideas, pling, 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 all these other ideas coming in. The child can get one idea and start writing. Or, you know, what's the word for it? Preempt what the mother's going to say. So be able to know that dinner's coming up. You know, dinner time's coming up, so they need to sort of finish off on the game. God help us, that's a total disaster, those games. Or even to be able to know and to hear that mum has lifted the keys in the kitchen and is saying to dad, here, listen, I'm going to the shop, I'm taking Ryan with me. And Ryan looks down and goes, oh, here, I've no shoes on, I'm going to the shop, I'll go and get my shoes on. Instead of, Ryan, get your shoes on.
Yeah, all the cues.
It's all the cues, all the things that we take for granted. We don't have to be told to get our shoes on. If we hear someone saying, here, listen, I'm going to shop and I'm taking some, they have to be told everything, and 10 times. And by the time they actually go and do it, you've given them one word, shoes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what she was on about.
Yeah.
You know, because they can't take in too much information and all of that. So it's all about rewiring the brain.
So Susan,
out the clutter.
The eyes, the ears, the sense of touch.
Oh, sense of touch is mad. So a lot of these children that come to us can't wear socks, labels, jeans, haircuts annoy them, water can annoy them, and yet they could run into a wall, bounce off, run on, and you're like, they should have been howling, having run into a wall, but yet they howl when you put socks on them with a seam. Right?
No, it's like it's reversed.
Joanne, B's and D's, switch the wrong way around. Consequences, switch the wrong way around. Sensors in the skin, switch the wrong way around. Now, here's the really mad bit about that. Whatever's happening in the physical is happening in the mental. So if you've got sensory situation switched around, so the light touch is annoying and the deep impact doesn't affect, well, then the little thing that they perceive in the brain, so the little toy or something that's a bit broken off it, they will lose the plot over. They will get very frustrated over that and have a big reaction to that. Whereas someone could die, a pet could die, and there's no empathy. Because they don't feel it when they run into the wall. So they don't feel the big impact on the brain.
Wow, Susan, that is
massive. Joanne, seriously, that's the biggie for us. Like, that is the biggie. A child who cannot wear socks will have no empathy.
Wow, that's massive.
Massive.
So the solution, Susan?
Solution is balance and coordination exercises. So we use a balance board because the balance system is the vestibular. It's the first sense to be developed when we're 5 months in the womb. Okay, so anything that is happening with this child has nothing to do with post-birth. Okay, right. Unless we've got trauma. Okay, that's a different thing, right? But generally, any child that comes to us, no, they're fine. They've had, normal sort of upbringing, if you like. So this all happens at 5 months in the womb. We all can have a touch of underdevelopment of that vestibular, that balance system. And if there's an underdevelopment at that time, there will be a problem with the other systems connecting up the line. So the visual, the auditory, the sensory, the proprioception, the interoception. Some children don't have an off button for whenever they're eating. They just keep eating. They're always hungry. And they're shouting at you, you're starving me. And they've just eaten chicken dinner, right?
Yeah.
But they've no off button message going to the brain. Some children don't have a button for when they need to go to the toilet. They don't get a warning system like we do. And we can sit on it for a while.
The whole regulation is off.
The regulation. Okay. And so all of that is on the inside. So this is the most complete program there is. So we work with the balance board, adjustable, but not a wobble board. It's an adjustable balance board. So it adjusts very, very gradually. So we never have a child going and worrying about staying on the board. There's always just a little bit of challenge so that they can throw a beanbag and catch it, watch the beanbag in flight as it goes up and down, which is very difficult. We work with bouncy balls. to loosen up the elbows, because again, these children who are rigid and stubborn and very fixed in their brains, well, guess what?
It wouldn't be flexible.
No flexibility in their body.
Yeah.
So they don't use their elbows. They clamp, if you can see this, they sort of clamp their elbows to themselves,
Yeah.
throw it, or else they throw with their shoulders, but these elbows do not hinge.
Wow.
Ian, you can see my elbow because I'm on camera, but I can't see my point of my own elbow if I look down. And these children are brilliant visual learners. If they can't see it, it doesn't exist. So they clamp it to what they know they have, or else they just don't use it at all. So the rigidity in the elbows gives them rigidity, stubbornness, anxiety, indeed. And that hold, fight or flight, freeze position in their physical, which has to have an impact on how they think. So they're very blinkered. And it looks like it's all about them, and they're very selfish. See that wee one there? Doesn't think of anybody else. They don't have the capacity.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
To think of anybody else, because they are in fight or flight. They may as well be in an alleyway and they're about to be attacked.
Yeah. That's a terrible, and even health-wise, long-term, Susan, that can,
Shocking.
you know, with like inflammatory, all sorts of well, behind every disease there's inflammation, isn't there? But it can cause problems for health later on down the line, and even mental health, like depression, anxiety, suicide.
All of it, because they're holding on too tight.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
And everybody wants a piece of them.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a piece of them. We don't, because we get it. And that's why for a family, for me to get a mum, a dad, and the child on camera, they walk away a different family just from the free evaluation.
Now, you're based in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, but we work all over the world.
All right. Okay. So obviously you do this on Zoom then as well.
Yeah. Local people come to us here in Donaghadee. But no, most of our work is done on Zoom, and just as we're talking now, you can imagine a wee family sitting there, and there's and it's once we get on to sport, the whole conversation lightens.
Talk us about the sport, because children, well, most children love sports, and I think nowadays there's less and less kids out there playing football. They're on their iPads or whatever. Why is that?
Exactly. Sporting wise, I mean, years ago, whenever I was doing this with Peter, my Peter couldn't have given basically two hoots about reading, I must say. He says to me, Mummy, why would I want to read? What does anybody get out of reading? Because to him, it was like reading a list of words, because he was dyslexic, right? But of course, he was 10 and a half, and I'm a very strong mother, so he was doing the exercises. And about a couple of months later, he came to me and he says, I'm going to keep doing those exercises, Mum, you know. And I went, oh. I said, did you find a book that you like? He went, no. He says, tell you what, but he says, my football's now awesome. Right, okay. And every child that we have worked with for their education or their, you know, emotional side or whatever has improved in sport.
Wow.
Okay? Whether they wanted to or not, whether they were big into sport or not, they were able to take part in sports day, or, you know, get on better in PE, whatever, ride a bike, for goodness sake. And
yeah, that's the whole balance thing again.
Balance, of course, balance, coordination. There's a lot involved in riding a bike, actually. We just take for granted that they can ride a bike, but there's a lot involved in thinking. So so we've now started working with sports people, and we're now actually going down the route with children that if they're interested in sport at all and would like to be better at the sport that they're playing, we say, do you know what? We'll not worry about the school. Let's do it for your sport. And sure, school will come on as a byproduct.
Yes, of course.
As it does.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're no longer working on the, okay, I can't read. Okay, yeah, spellings, can't retain spellings. No, I can't concentrate in class. I actually found it really boring. It's no longer about that. It's about performance. It's about, right, okay. And obviously not every child plays sport or could get excited about sport. But my goodness, Joanne, see if they're playing their Gaelic or their soccer or their rugby or their tennis or their swimming or their horse riding or whatever. I actually just talked to a mother whose kid's doing motocross. And it doesn't matter what sport it is, we can sharpen them up, because you sharpen the body, you sharpen the mind, and we can give them that competitive edge that just gets them that wee bit above.
And they're moving, they're physical, they're getting the blood flow going, getting the lymph going. That's all really important for detoxing the body. Does this work with music, the likes of music, playing an instrument?
Oh, aye. As in making it easier?
Yeah, be able to focus and...
Oh, aye. My brother, funny enough, my brother has played piano since he was 4. He's now 60. And we would all have had a tendency of not finishing things. I did the program for that very reason, right? And whenever he was home he lives in Austria, and whenever he was home one time, he'd seen what we were doing with the boys, and he phoned me and he says, send me over one of your kits. He says, I'm now doing my own head in. He was writing 4 novels, not reading, writing 4 novels. And he kept, going to one and doing a bit, and then another one and doing a bit. And I went, right, okay, I'm sending you over the kit, but I want you to put 3 of the novels in a drawer and only work on the one, right? But you're asking about music. As a byproduct, within 1 week, he phoned me and said, could this have helped my piano flute?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I went, yeah, of course, if you need it sharpened. And he went, I'm now even more, he's a musician as a trade. He said, I'm even more confident over my classical pieces.
Wow. Because I can really hear that can help to develop the memory centers as well in the brain.
Of course. It's all connected, And the beauty of it is, I have an occupational therapist who works with me, and she did it for her own son. She's been an OT for 35 years. And she said, Susan, it's the most complete program that's out there.
Yeah.
Because it works with every part of the child or adult. And it's reorganizing every part of the brain to work with each other. And it's funny you should mention music, because I sort of imagine the kids when they come in, or indeed the adults, that it's almost, have you ever heard an orchestra warming up?
Yes. Yeah. There's all this harmony, and then...
Yeah, the oboe gives the first note and everybody tunes to that oboe's note, right? And it's all whatever. And then the
conductor comes in.
And the symphony begins.
And it's beautiful. It's all in harmony.
All works together in harmony. And that's how I see the brain. That's how I see it. It's a cacophony of wonderful mess, but mess it is, because they're wonderful kids. But we get them to the symphony.
I often talk, when you talk about the brain-body connection, obviously I'm the sleep success coach, and I talk a lot about sleep, and obviously this can impact sleep as well. When the brain is hyperactive, it can't calm down. The switches can't turn on and off, because there is actually a switch center in the brain for sleep. And interestingly enough as well, all the neurotransmitters that are involved in sleep are also involved in mental health as well, depression, schizophrenia, all that sort of thing as well. And again, when it's all disorganized and they're not firing right, they're not wired together rightly. So I can even see this with the brain degeneration problems like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. This would help with that area as well, I suspect.
It would. And we work with stroke patients as well, stroke survivors.
Oh my God.
For rehabilitation, I've a piece written by the University of Ulster here in Northern Ireland, and we've made a clinical improvement.
Wow.
Clinical improvement.
We're going a little over time, but I have to say I'm really intrigued with this conversation. I just want to ask you as well, how long does your course last? How long a time do people have to commit to this? And does the whole family have to be involved? Or tell us just a little bit about that, just put it all together.
Okay, so it takes a year. And we do it for a year because it takes generally 3 months to hardwire a new neural connection. Okay, so that's 4 lots of...
It's like habit forming as well, is that you're talking about?
Yeah. Four lots of 3 months of hardwiring. That's a lot of hardwiring, because there's about 59, 60 traits that we turn around, if you like, and switch them the right way around. Okay.
Wow.
So so it takes a year. We families do it at home, and we support them right the way throughout the year. It's 5 days a week, 15 minutes maximum.
That's
maximum. Not much. It's still a commitment, but it's not much. Okay.
It's routine, isn't it? Really, it's a routine.
It's just getting into the routine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if the kids
today, would that have an impact if they miss 2 days?
No.
3 days?
No.
Why? Okay.
No. I mean, they can have the weekends off. We'll say to parents, there'll be days that you miss. Even with taking the 2 days off, there'll be other days that it doesn't happen. There'll be days when you've little time, because that's family life. And we say, try and get them on the board and do the eye exercise. It takes 30 seconds and run to whatever you have to do.
Wow.
So it's not hard and rigid. We're not checking up and going, right, now you have to tick a box to say you've done this every day. Look, I wouldn't want that. Okay. I know when the kid's not doing the program. Okay, we know to look at them.
Yeah.
All right. So parents know that, and the child knows that. And once the child, you have to imagine, see, an awful lot of stuff out there, children start feeling better because they get work done for 6 weeks. But that's not long enough to hardwire anything. So therefore they go backwards again.
Yeah, okay.
And it all goes backwards. And then everybody thinks, oh, that OT doesn't work. OT would work if it was given enough time. All of these things would work. But a lot of things are just, oh, let's just look after the reading. Let's just look after the sleeping, the feeding, the whatever. But this looks after the whole child within one session, 5 days a week.
Oh, that's
incredible. We do it for the whole family. So, I mean, dads can get on it. Mums can get on it. Other siblings can get on it. Okay.
I think this is worthwhile everybody doing, Susan, to be honest with you.
Well, do you know, from an older age point of view, I mean, I have a 93-year-old who comes to me every Friday.
Wow.
And he's still driving.
Oh my God.
And a very good driver. I've been in the car with him, and he's as good as any 30-year-old.
Wow. Yeah, because we really need to keep those connections firing
and
gelling together. This is neuroplasticity, really.
It's neuroplasticity. And you imagine 85% of what we take in is through our eyes. And what do we need for driving? You need that reaction speed, that reading of the road, that ability, spatial awareness, parking, all of that. All has to come from the eyes through the brain. We think of eyes as just seeing, and we need glasses, for distance or whatever. But it's what is the brain processing of what the eyes are seeing is what we're dealing with. Okay, it's not about prisms in order to help you to read. It's about getting back to the pathology of what the actual neurons are doing and how they're reading situations.
This is incredible. I came across an introductory video. I'm going to put it in the show notes as well, Susan.
Yes,
where you were explaining a lot of this.
Yeah.
An exercise, what you do basically. So I'm going to put that in the show notes so people can hear that.
Because it's hard to sort of visualize it without actually seeing me on the balance board and the pendulum ball and all.
Yeah, you're actually doing some of the. You're doing some of the exercises, so I'll put that in the show notes to encourage people to watch that as well. Cool. Susan, what's next? What's your future? Because I think there's
the world.
Why are more people not doing this?
Why are people not doing this? Because nobody tells. Parents tell, but the hierarchy doesn't tell.
The systems don't work.
The system doesn't work, and they're too stuck in their ways to see something like this as. I mean, they think it's wonderful, but they won't pay for it. So everybody has to pay for it, which is a shame. We keep the cost down as much as possible, and we do it per family. The cost is per family. And you think of it in sporting terms. What would you pay for your child to be top in their sport?
A sports coach, can you imagine?
Yeah, exactly. So, and we are working with football academies now, with golfing academies. So it's spreading out quicker through sport than it ever will through education.
People want to improve their game, don't they, and be better at their golf.
And dads will tell other dads about it from a sporting point of view, but they don't want to say that their child was never out of the headmaster's office.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's not gas what we talk about and what we don't talk about.
Yeah, we don't want, because that sort of makes it comes back as, I didn't parent him right. Why on earth would a child be in a headmaster's office? My child was never in a headmaster. You can just hear it. Whereas whenever you're working on the performance for sport, well, there's no stigma with any of that.
What are you going to do next in your business, Susan?
I'm building on the sport.
You're building on
the sport, and I really would love a top sports person to work with, because that would catapult it. Because within 3 minutes, I would have his game totally sussed. His or hers, totally sussed.
Well, I know a couple of good golfers now, so I'll have a word with them and their influencers as well. They know people, so I'll have a word there and see what they say. I'll send them on this interview.
Because I was talking to a mum at the football academy, and I called her over and I said, right, okay, first time I'd met her child, very briefly, and I gave him a bean bag and he was throwing it, and it was very, very tight, and I sort of said to her, a wee bit stubborn, and she went, yeah. And then I did the eye exercise and I went, okay, difficult to
so funny.
concentrate in school. And she went, you can tell all that. And I went, yeah, we don't need a diagnosis. We don't need you to wait not a year and a half for a diagnosis. And plus, we'll give you the solution.
Because the waiting time is detrimental, Susan. We can't wait.
But Joanne, the waiting time is detrimental, but the bottom line is you're being handed, and I mean, I don't mean to be disingenuous, but you're being handed, as I was handed a book of paper to say, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. He is dyslexic. And I asked the question, what do I do now? I was told paired reading's very good. Paired reading. And I went, right, okay, I'll go and sort it myself.
That's where the two of you read together, is that?
As if Peter was ever going to tap me to say, here, I'll take over. He just wanted me to read the whole thing.
Oh, my God.
So.
And you're not medically trained, Susan.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not. But I have a skill set that has been honed over the last 12 years. I worked with my own children and I took on guinea pigs and I just started and I just got stuck in.
You've had your experience.
I now have a neuroscientist working with me actually from
Wow.
Bristol, and he is so excited because I have the practical answer to all of his theory.
Wow. Talk about breakthrough, performance breakthrough. It really is. It really is. And it's so simple what you're saying, but yet many of us don't understand. And I think your message is very strong and very urgent, Susan, because a lot of families can have peace of mind, and you know, there's enough of struggling going on in life out there without you know, not understanding what's going on with our children, and even for ourselves, because we can be overwhelmed and our brain can get fried and all of this, you know, this chaos in our brain. So I really hear how it can help so many people, especially our children. And you know, to live in that world of being frightened and scared, and our parents, and I know you said about them, they don't take it on like emotionally or whatever, but to feel
it's going in somewhere.
It's
going in somewhere, and this is a lifesaver for many people. This is a lifesaver, and was to my boys, you know, because they don't know where they would be if they hadn't have done it, and a whole load like them, you know.
Give us your website. Where can people get in touch with you, Susan?
Yeah, it's the W's and then performancebreakthrough.co.uk, and there's pages on there for sport, and there's the parents, and there's the adults, and there's the stroke. Okay, so there's a number of different, and then we've got our YouTube channel as well that you can subscribe to, and again, it's Performance Breakthrough with this face on the circle. And there's 72 videos on there actually, and there's a lot of what I'm talking about, little insights, so it'll come up, maybe frustration meltdowns, and it'll tell you the background towards those, or sensory issues, handwriting, reading, and it goes through. So you can just, you know, pick whichever ones are applicable to your child. And at the end of it, you'll go, she's got a camera in my house.
Well, yeah.
You know, you hear that every day. They go, you sure you have got a camera in my house? You know, or
and to think that they're going to all the, you know, doctors or whatever, and they're been told like they're putting on waiting lists, and they've been told to see another person in 6 months' time or whatever, and yet you have all this ready at hand.
There's nothing that anybody could come to me with that I would be going, don't know, I've never come up against that.
See, so many people feel disempowered when it comes to doctors, and look, doctors do have their place, but we just leave it there, and we say there's nothing I can do, and they leave it there with what the doctor said or whoever it was that said to them, and we don't take it on to try, and we have to not accept it and find another way. There has to be another way.
I was talking to a girl who a stroke survivor this morning, and she was told that, oh no, you had your stroke 8 years ago. No, I mean, where you are now is really where you're going to stay. That's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I said, I'm working with a girl 7 years after her stroke, and she's now playing her violin again. She hadn't been able to lift the bow because she couldn't hold it in her hand. And she's now playing full pieces.
Susan, that's a
you know what I mean? So I don't hold with all this. I've been talking to parents for so long, and they've been told their child will never make mainstream, never walk, never talk, never do this, never do the other, and they're doing it all.
Don't accept that. Yeah,
just don't accept it. You know, just don't accept it. Beautiful. And I didn't accept it, and I was very lucky. I didn't go around the world for a shortcut. As soon as I found this, I went, that'll do. I'll do that. and it was the last thing I did, the last thing I had to do. And I do
Right.
feel very sorry for parents. I feel sorry for mums, because mums are always looking for answers, and they keep thinking they found it, and then it doesn't work. And
Yeah.
then the dad's going, oh, here's another harebrained scheme you've come up with. You know, what's this going to cost us? How long is this going to take? Oh, you
Yeah.
have to put all that commitment in, you know, and yet the mummy knows that, gosh, this is actually the right thing. And sometimes the dads won't. And that's why we've switched to sport, because it just works for dads.
Wow, I can really hear how the whole family can fall into disharmony with all this whole process, trying to figure it out. Yeah.
You know,
I have to
so
say, Susan, I absolutely admire who you are, what you're doing, you know, for your own children and the world, and helping to empower parents and families all over the world. It's just incredible. It takes someone to be so courageous and bold to step out.
I don't see it as courageous and bold. I just see it as logic.
Yeah.
Practical logic. That if something natural can sort out your whole child,
Yeah.
why on earth would
So
you
simple.
and taking medication, or, you know, and making them that they can't sleep, they can't eat, they're grey.
Yeah, it's just
Why
a
would
whole
you do
life.
that whenever you can bounce a ball, throw a bean bag and hit a pendulum ball, and within a year have that child sorted, that they're gentlemen or young ladies that can go out into the world and literally reach their potential and be the people that they were born to be, without these crazy, you know, pathways that just literally need. My son describes it as the telephone exchange.
Yeah.
That's in the wrong place. That's supposed to be down there, and you're supposed to be down there.
Love it.
That works.
Yeah. No, that's great.
That's what we do.
You're basically unlocking
We're unlocking all that potential, because it's all in there. They're really smart children. They've all loads of high IQs, and they're the smartest children half times in the classroom. And that's why they get frustrated, Joanna. We'll leave it at that, because if they weren't smart, they wouldn't get frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. There's something in the way, just something not working. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Susan, I could talk to you all day and wrap it up.
I know.
I want to respect your time.
I told you I couldn't shut up about it.
I know, but it's great. Like you're really so passionate about it. I can really hear that you want to help people. So people can get through to you on Performance Breakthrough. You're on Facebook as well, I presume.
Oh, Facebook.
Yeah. Social media, all that.
Or just lift the phone. Just lift the phone. Give me a ring.
Great. We'll put all the links in the show notes as well. I'll put that intro video in the show. I really encourage people to watch that video. I watched it. It's really, really informative. And there's so much people can do even from that, like, you know, but do get on a call with Susan, everybody. And, you know, whether it's for your children or yourself or your own parents, it's just incredible, and it can really cause transformations, unlocking that brain power and your ability to perform in life in any area of your life. So Susan, it's been just mind-blowing, incredible. Thank you for your time, and we'll chat with you soon again. Take care.
All right, take care. Thanks, everyone.
I do hope you are enjoying these conversations, and to help me continue pushing these videos and audio podcasts together, I do have an ask. I do need support to help me to keep bringing you knowledge and insights. There is a Patreon link, patreon.com/empowering family health, or you can make a donation via PayPal. All the links are in the description and the pinned comment. You can do a one-off, or you can do a monthly support. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Take care.